Okay, so this will probably be the last video in the series. This was never meant to be a full game. It was just meant to demonstrate how to do the resource gathering. So now that you've seen how to do two, you could just rinse and repeat. You create new objects. Each object should have its own static variable. The static variables are currently stored here in the harvest script. So each static variable represents how much of that you have. And in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to have these values displayed in an inventory. Because usually if you're harvesting, then you then have to go into crafting. I'm not going to do crafting for this particular series. I may do a separate crafting series at a later time. But before we begin, I also want to mention one other thing. Ideally, your inventory should be in the UI level, okay? There is an actual UI canvas that you can use for inventories and for menus and things like that. Having said that, I'm still researching it. I'm still learning it. And I promised that I was going to have this out soon. So the functionality will work. It's just that you're probably going to have to make some adjustments if you know how to use the UI to transfer these values over to that. So let's get to it. First thing is I imported this image. It's just a PNG. It's going to be the window for the inventory. And when you import a 2D image into Unity 3D, that is a 3D Unity project, it shows up as a texture. We're going to want to change that to sprite. You can get rid of map, simply you don't need it, and click on apply. Once you do that, you can now take this image and drag and drop it into your screen. And now we'll just run this. So there it is. And the problem is this is right in the environment. So there's a couple ways around that. A, you can go to a separate inventory scene, which is one way you can do this. And the other is you simply, like I said, make a UI level and put everything there. Or a UI object, really. I shouldn't say UI level, UI object. What happens is it creates like a canvas over here, and then you add everything to that. But again, this is meant to just show you the basics. You can integrate it into your project. Okay. Now what we're going to do, we're going to actually make this slightly transparent because inventory systems, windows like that tend to be. So when you click on the color, down here, A, that's for alpha. You can just click on that and you can see how it got darker because you can now see through it. You can see like the mushroom edge and you can see the gem behind it. And it's really a matter of aesthetics. How transparent do you want it to be? So immediately you can see the difference. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add some more objects that have text meshes. Those text meshes will be in front of this, and those text meshes values will be linked to the static variables. And that is, it'll say something like mushroom, and then it'll have the value of the mushroom there. So let's look at how we do that. So go up to Game Object, and then create empty. And then add component, mesh, text mesh. Now let's make the character size like 0.2. If you leave it at the full 1, it tends to be blurry, so we'll change it to 0.2. Font size will make like 24. I only have one font, Arial, so we'll use that. We don't have to we don't have to type anything here because what we're going to do is we're going to attach a script to this to control what it reads. And but for the purposes of lining this up, I'll put it here. So now let's set this to 0, 0. I believe this is at -5. So let's put this at -4.9, so slightly in front of it. And to make sure it doesn't look blurred, what we have to do is the inventory is at order in layer 0. We need to put it behind the text. So watch what happens. You're going to see this get brighter because it's now moved behind it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have this be modified. So first let's change this to slot 1 because it's inventory slot 1. Copy that, slot 2. And so again, just, as many slots as you want, you just copy and paste this. We now create a script to control those. So slide that down a bit. Right click, create C# INVCON, short for inventory control. Highlight both slots. Put the inventory control on it, and you've added it to both at the same time. Go ahead and open that up. Now, as we said, in Harvest, these static variables, these are the variables that store how many units of the individual objects you have. Because they're static, it makes them accessible anywhere in the application to any object, to any script. So let's go to inventory con, which is attached to those two slots. In the update section, which gets run every single frame, we're going to have it get updated to whatever's being mined. So again, this script is attached to multiple objects, so for it to work, we need to let the script know which object we want to modify. Since they have unique names, we can base it on name. So if the game object that this script is attached to, that's what this means, if its name equals slot 1, you got to get exactly right, no extra spaces or anything. And I believe it's case sensitive as well. So if the name of the game object that the script is attached to is equal to slot, we want something to happen. We want it to be equal to, so get component, and we want to modify the text mesh. Explicitly want to change the text, or should I say specifically, not explicitly. We want the text of the text mesh to be changed. We want it to read, say, gems, and then an X, space, quote, and then a plus sign. Now, I find this a little odd because you're not actually adding. What you're doing is you're concatenating. So usually when you do concatenating, you would expect to use an ampersand, but for some reason, it uses a plus sign. So that's what we're stuck with. So gems plus, or should I say the text, gems X, concatenated with, we said that in the harvest script, we defined a variable called gem units. That's it. So you're saying take this string and append this value to it. It's really that easy. Now we're going to run it. See, it modified that one, and even though it's attached to this one, it did not modify this one. So now, and it increases as you're taking the resource. And now it's just rinse and repeat. The next one would be mushroom. So we copy that, we paste it, and just make a few tweaks. Change slot 2 to read to mushrooms, and that one is shroom units. Now we have to go back and change one other thing because something is missing. So back in the harvest script, on trigger, this is where it's looking to see what the harvester is colliding with. Here we say if the name of the other object that the harvester is colliding with is a gem, then increase gem units. Well, that means we need to repeat this for shroom units. And the object is, it's actually shrooms 1 with a capital S. You're just using the actual name that it's colliding with. So that's it, really. So that shows you how to um, track what is being collected. We actually already had that in place, and then how to display it. And then that's about it. So that stores it in your inventory. If you have any other questions, just let me know. But really, this should get modified at some later point because we're basically faking a UI. There's actually a built-in UI to Unity that really should be used for best results, but at least this gets you up and going, gives you a proof of concept. Maybe you're presenting this to someone. It gets you up and going with how to demonstrate the collecting of a resource, the reporting on that resource you've collected, and that's about it. So, like I said, this is probably the last video in this tutorial. I was not looking to make a complete No Man's Sky. I was really just looking to demonstrate how you do that resource harvesting, and then you can integrate that into your own application. So that should about do it.